For my A2 media production coursework, I've produced a media promotional package for a stalker horror film. This package consists of a film poster, trailer, and magazine front cover. I divided the production of my coursework in 3 stages: pre-production, production, and post-production. The pre-production stage consists mostly of research and planning. This was important for me to develop an understanding of key media codes and conventions that I'll use in my media product to either challenge or develop. For the research stage of my production work, I needed to establish the codes and conventions of my chosen genre, stalker horror. This was important for me to understand for media institutions because the genre will influence trailers, story, and mise-en-scene. And like media institutions, knowing the codes and conventions of my genre will allow me to know what must be included in my trailer for it to meet the criteria of horror. This can be seen in my trailer's dark lighting and saturated look. The genre is also important for the audience as their previous experience with it allows for certain expectations. Audience expectations are important because this is what attracts the viewer to a product. In order for my media product to work successfully as a promotional package, it must meet audience expectations. I think my trailer achieved this by meeting the very basic codes and conventions, such as starting with a slow pace to build suspense, a female victim, a film production logo and film title. This allowed my audience to identify that this is a film trailer and perhaps a professional one. The trailers I analysed were All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, Tusk, and Under the Skin. I believe that these trailers were good at demonstrating the ways in which films of specific subgenres and styles within horror use codes and conventions. All the Boys Love Mandy Lane was a very mainstream and silent story. It displayed what is very common in the horror genre, and that's the objectification of women. It could be argued that this trailer agrees with Margot's male gaze theory. This theory suggests that the camera is a heterosexual male, and that's the viewpoint most media products are created in. I used elements of this in my trailer, but rather than sexualizing her, my goal was to touch on the delicate, fragile, and feminine nature of my character, who will be the victim. I did this by focusing on her lips, face, and eyes, which can be seen in the beginning half of my trailer, rather than parts of her body like the waist or her back and backside, like All the Boys Love Mandy Lane trailer did. I also focused less on sexualizing my character, as my research suggested that my target audience was split between men and women. I felt that this perhaps developed the conventions of how women are portrayed in horror, as it presents a female victim in a feminine and delicate light without sexualizing her. I do, however, feel as though it also conforms, as my main character is still portrayed as weak, vulnerable, and unable to defend herself. I do believe that this was important. It was important for me to do this, as focusing on the vulnerability of my character is a key convention in the horror genre. I believe my trailer challenged one of the basic code conventions of horror, which was the use of high key lighting, upbeat music, and vibrant colors, and other similar codes and conventions that can be seen in comedies and romances. This gave me an idea of how horror movies today are subject to postmodernism and the very idea that we live in a world of remakes culture. It showed that horror steals from other genres to constantly reinvent itself, and supports the idea that genre is ever changing and fluid. This idea is supported by David Buckham, who said, "Genre is not simply given by culture, rather it is in a constant process of negotiation and change." I believe my trailer challenges this convention as starting off upbeat, then suddenly changing style. I decided to take an approach similar to what I saw in Under the Skin, rather than slowly introduce what I showed them a series of clips that exposed one of the film's major plot points, without giving an explanation or context. By arranging the trailer's narrative in this way, it adds another layer of depth to the story. And one of the conventions that all trailers demonstrated was the focus of their purpose. All these trailers are designed to promote and sound the film. Although the trailers may differ in style, they are all designed to convince their audience to watch the film. All 3 trailers do this in several ways. One was by giving the viewer a clear understanding of the storyline without revealing too much information. The trailers also tried to appeal to my audience through mystery. All the Boys Love Mandy Lane did this by not revealing who the killer was. Tusk did this by showing the protagonist enter a deadly situation without showing how they escape, and Under the Skin did this through its use of iconography and by withholding key information such as the characters' motives or even who they are. In my trailer, I used techniques similar to this to gain my audience's interest. I created mystery by withholding motives and the identity of my girl. Analysing the Under the Skin trailer allowed me to gain an understanding of codes and conventions in art house horror film. One of these conventions was the heavy use of iconography, and I think my trailer met this. I used props and clips such as masks, a dream catcher, and a surreal cloud image to try and create depth. I also did this to create subjective meaning. This is very conventional for art house media of all platforms, to have a deeper and more ambiguous meaning, one that is independent of the author's intention. This agrees with the postmodern idea of mort d'auteur. The signs and symbols shown to the viewer is dependent on the viewer's personal experiences with them and the society in which they've lived. This type of thing is very common in art house film. My trailer conformed to this through its iconography, especially in the part in which the house is shown. I edited the style of clips to look like old film footage was being played on a projector. I did this with the intention of making my audience feel as though they're watching footage filmed by someone in the film. use of found footage is commonly used in the horror genre to create an unsettling atmosphere. In the film Sinister, it used to show the killer's previous victims. This idea is what inspired the introduction of my trailer. The use of film footage gives a creepier connotations about what's being seen. It makes the audience feel as though they're watching something left behind by the antagonist, something they shouldn't see. I also tried to make the cinematography of the scene seem very amateur, so it'd be more convincing that it was found footage. I did this by using a moderate amount of camera shake and having objects appear between the lens and the subject. I felt that by introducing my trailer in this way, I could evoke questions such as who is filming this, why are they filming this, and why they focusing on the girl. This works on the premise of Roland Barthes' hermeneutic code. By leaving unanswered questions, my audience will seek answers by watching the rest of the trailer and the film. This fits into Code's conventions of horror because the purpose of trailers is to make the audience want to watch the film. And I think I did this with my use of mystery. Mystery is also a convention of horror as it's used to create suspense and intrigue. At certain parts of my trailer, it instantly cuts from footage of her walking to a pair of feet dangling and struggling. This is a convention used in horror trailers, such as All the Boys of Mine Lane. Skipping straight to a moment of action keeps the audience on edge, and it helps introduce the horror plot. My trailer develops conventions of current horror trailers through a combination of mainstream and niche. When appropriate, I attempt to tailor my trailer to a style that embraces the weird aesthetic of art house films, and elsewhere my trailer remains in accordance to the style of horror trailers. At a certain point, my trailer uses a heartbeat sound effect as non-diegetic sound. My intention was to emphasize the feeling of fear that the protagonist feels and increase suspense. This leads up to another cultural horror convention, the jump scare. The jump scare is a common horror trailer convention. This is where, after a moment of suspense, the mise-en-scene is completely changed from quiet and slow to quickly edited and loud. I use this convention during my trailer as the character walks through her kitchen. By scaring my audience, I make it explicitly clear that this film is a horror film and so meets its conventions. Another convention that my trailer met is the sudden shift from a more horror-like style from what was first just menacing and creepy. My trailer then starts to develop a quicker pace as editing and audio becomes more violent. This is a typical narrative feature of trailers. I believe that I challenged the expectations of my audience and challenged the conventions of horror trailers by introducing it with an avant-garde art house opening. This type of opening is unexpected to films in the horror genre and suggests an obscure experimental film and storyline. This idea is then challenged as my trailer moves towards the stereotypical conventional format of horror trailers. My product conformed to many conventions to establish itself as a horror trailer and do an effective job as one. I also tried to challenge and develop many codes and conventions to create more meaning in my trailer story. I think that although my trailer challenged and developed several conventions in horror genre, it also conformed to a lot.